In between seeing the people she wanted to see, trying to make something worth existing, and 3 o'clock when she felt comfortable starting to drink, a certain amount of time would accumulate. She never learned to cope with the thoughts that occurred to her during these times, and as she smoked a cigarette on the balcony 16 floors above the grid she lived in, she was once again overwhelmed with the thoughts that she had gathered. With a mind overrun by unhinged sediment, she put her cigarette out in a porcelain sink that she had converted into an ashtray by putting sand in it, and debated realizing a thought that was about to pass her by. Schizophrenia had left her hopelessly bipolar, which meant she was usually depressed. Pills would have probably helped, but she drank too much, too consistently to take them, consistently. Besides that, she never wanted to have sex when she was taking her pills, and that couldn't work out because she loved a good fuck. That's how I knew her, fucking that is, but couldn't ever figure out who fucked who. And afterwards, once, when we were smoking the obligatory post-fornication cigarette, she explained to me what was on her mind. I suppose this was my fault. I did ask her what she was thinking. She told me it was all really very shocking, though, even for what I thought were her standards. First, she explained why she didn't care for being alone. Apparently, when she was alone, she either thought about her horribly despondent aspirations or her happy memories. And as if her contrasting thoughts weren't disparaging enough, she then explained that her happy memories were ultimately just as sad as her unhappy ones because she knew the guises that she had draped over them. Being able to see through her own veils of happiness brought her to a place where reality didn't even exist. She was thinking of something happy, it was contrived, and it was sad, it was too difficult to recount, which created falsities in its retelling and made it once again contrived. Her aspirations were that of epically hopeless proportions. They were mostly things she wished she had the courage to try, like jump off a building with a sincere intent to fly, stand up in a church and just shoot herself in the head, stand up in a crowded subway and shoot herself in the head, stand up in a high school assembly and just shoot herself in the head. When she explains these suicides, she makes it clear that she would aim the blood splatters, because she's not killing herself out of a desire to die. Rather, she wants to know what effect it would instill on the blood-splattered recipients. And she apparently also aspires to one day make a family, just so that she could leave them. Her other aspirations were more like destiny she swore she had been enlightened of at one point. She would never tell me what they were, because then they may not happen, but she did tell me that they all had the same unavoidable contingency. I'm pretty sure this contingency was being alone, because as much as she hated it, she made sure she always was. At one point, during her questionably accurate self-assessment, she explained to me some of the thoughts that she'd randomly frequent when other people were around. Like the aspirations she had in the privacy of her own loneliness, her random thoughts were pretty deranged. They included going into a fit of rage without provocation and directing the brunt of her verbal and physical outbursts at her best friend, calmly telling everyone she was friends with that she never wanted to see or hear from them again and just disappear, never calling her family again and moving to Utah to become a traveling Bible salesman, or steal everything she could from the people that trusted her the most, just ride the rails until she runs out of money and settle down to make new friends so that she could steal from them and continue riding the rails. Apparently, when she was a child, she always wanted the school bus to tip over when it went around a certain bend because she knew that everyone on the bus would die. She claimed that she thinks of these things when other people are talking to her about themselves. After listening to her divulge what I thought to be the most deranged confession in our nation's history, I leaned over the bed to grab another cigarette off the nightstand. When I rolled back over, she had already made her way to the bathroom. From the light-filled crack beneath the door, I heard her ask me with a bit of a snicker what was on my mind. I lit my cigarette and proceeded to tell her about some project I was working on and explained the concept behind it. During my little rant, she made her way back to the bed and got under the covers, keeping a bit of distance between the two of us, but keeping intimate eye contact to convey her presence. Her gaze was just as captivating as when she was walking to the bed in her beautiful nothing. She always seemed to keep your attention somehow. After finishing what I believed to be a pretty understandable explanation for what was really an impenetrable concept about being remembered in the end or something, I looked up at her and she batted her eyes. I put my cigarette out. I knew at once she didn't know what the hell I was talking about, but it wasn't because she wasn't capable of understanding it. It was because she was not really listening. When When I asked her what thought she was exploring during my discourse, she smiled and replied with a sense of embarrassment as to say I didn't really want to know. After a bit of encouragement, she told me what she was really thinking about was stealing my car and driving to Reno with the hope of becoming a prostitute. A cheap one at that, with a tongue ring and a rose tattoo on her ankle and a tribal design on her lower back, topped off with a black eye that her pimp Roscoe gave her. That's why I loved her. That is an honest memory I have of her. It's not tarnished with inaccuracies or contrived veils of happiness. She was really like that. So when she called me... Hey, Dove.
Hey, I'm having a bad time of it.
I'm gathered she wanted to see me. Yeah, I'll be right over. Of course, I drove across town to be with her. No, I'm leaving right now. On the phone, she was telling me how easy it was to follow my red car through the grid below her. I parked the car across the street from her building, got out, locked the car, and looked up. She was leaning over the railing of her balcony and waved to me. We said hello to each other over the phone, and I hung up after telling her I'd be up in a second. Walking across the street, I saw her disappear back from the railing, and as I got to the place right under her balcony, 16 floors below, my phone rang, so I stopped and reached for it. That's the precise moment that a porcelain sink turned ashtray crushed my skull into sediments that only use was to float around bits of my brain in my own pool of blood. There was a lot of stuff floating in my pool of blood, bits of porcelain, sand, cigarette butts. It was all really very demeaning and almost made this an unpleasant way to go, seeing as it turned a bit insulting with the lack of respect for my being dead. I can understand how some people would be upset with her, but I can honestly say you will never forgive me, which I can attribute to my cause of death, which can be attributed to her, and honestly, it is just all I wanted, to be remembered in the end. We'll never know what aspiration she was fulfilling, what random thought she was realizing, or what destiny she was striving for by killing me. But part of me hoped she got to my car keys before a crowd assembled. I can see her doing that. Stealing my car right after she killed me. I can only hope she's hooking in Nevada now with a tongue ring, a couple of tattoos, and a black eye. I think that's where she really wanted to be the whole time anyways.
Give me some wine when you open the door. You seem hurt. Do try to speak a word to me. What on earth could really go wrong with you and me? Yet it's the end, friend of mine. It's the end, sweet friend of mine. Time seems to be over when we could simply say I love you. Now you open the door. I feel cold. Why can't I hold you in my arms? Told you that life is short but love is old. It's the end, friend of mine. It's the end, sweet friend.